Welcome in Logan Webb. Welcome in Lamont Wade Jr. Honored to have my guest on today, Kyle Harrison. Let's bring a friend of mine in, Pat Burrow. Pat, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be on with you.
Giants fans, this is Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants. KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Standing in the pitch, and a chopper up the first base side. It's a fair ball, and he does not run. Wagaman comes down the line, and Lee, I'm not sure why he didn't run. He seemed to think it was going to be a foul ball, or I thought maybe it had hit him. And of course, he has a hard time communicating with an umpire. Anyway, the game is over, and that's the way it went for the Giants. 14 men reached base, and they couldn't get even one of them home.
Welcome into the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey on a Saturday. A beautiful day here in Northern California, but it was not beautiful in Miami at Lone Depot Park as the offense could not scratch one run to give that advantage to Robbie Ray. And what a game Robbie Ray put together. He goes 7 innings, only giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. And he was pitching dynamic, just like he has been in his last 11 starts. The Giants tried to scratch a run out in the first inning with bases loaded and a strikeout by Adames and a strikeout by Yastrzemski. And that was pretty much it. Sure, they hit a couple balls, one to the wall. Fitzgerald hit one that caught Hernandez, caught the ball. That was pretty relatively just a fly ball. But the one to center field that Jung-Hoo Lee hit in the 7th inning that Myers caught, I thought that was the game changer. I thought that was everything the Giants needed if that ball got over his head, if he dropped it. But the Giants could not get a run today. 8 hits, no runs, 8 hits, no errors, 1 run, 3 hits, 1 error for Miami. And this is their 6th shutout on the year. And I reflect on this road trip a little bit. Last Saturday, they were shut out in Washington 3-0. 3 runs, 8 hits for Washington, no runs, 3 hits for the Giants. So the offensive woes are continuing. These numbers even grow a little bit more on this road trip. Of course, tomorrow's the 9th game on this road trip. They're 3-5 on the road trip. They have scored 14 runs in 8 games. 14. Just think about that. 14 runs in 8 games. It's less than 2 runs a game. The opposition has only scored 16 runs in the 8 games. 16 runs for the opposition, 14 runs for the Giants. Think those numbers through, Giants fans. 14 runs, that's it. You're going to get not too many games like this, 1-0, no doubt. But there was this no clutch hitting. When they had runners on base, the strikeout eluded them. 8 strikeouts. And a lot of those were that proposition of getting a hit. It was right there. Tyler Fitzgerald striking out in the 6th inning with 1st and 2nd. Tyler Fitzgerald again in the 8th inning struck out with 1st and 3rd. Key points of this game, Tyler Fitzgerald didn't come through. He ended up getting a base hit in the 2nd inning, almost hit the home run in the 4th inning, but when it came down to clutch hitting, the Giants just couldn't do it. It got back in even in the 9th inning. Why was Lamont Wade Jr. not getting pinch hit here? He went 0 for 4, striking out twice. There has to be something better on this bench. He's hitting 167. Just didn't understand why there wasn't a pinch hitter leading off the 9th inning. Casey Schmidt ended up hitting for Sam Huff, a little weak ground ball to first. What does the Giants have on this bench that can help this club? What is in AAA that could possibly change some dynamics here? Get some offense, get some speed, get something going. Mike Yastrzemski's in a deep hole for the month of May. Lamont Wade Jr.'s in a deeper hole in the month of May. Is Sam Huff that good of a backup catcher? As a hitter, defensively, yes. But I really believe once they get home, when they get home tomorrow night, there has to be something to get this offense going with some new faces. Bring some. Encarnacion will be here. There's no question. But is there anybody else in AAA? We'll look at numbers as the show goes on. But I really want to reflect on what Robbie Ray did today, because Robbie Ray, in the one inning that he got in trouble, he got the first two guys out, and he walked Myers and Fortas. And he ended up really pushing the ball. The only two at-bats in that inning where he kind of overthrew. He had problems with the fastball today. Then he dialed in. He retired 15 hitters in a row. 15 going 7 innings. 15 hitters in a row. The 2 walks and the 1 curveball he threw to Sanya got the base hit to right center field. And really, it was a good pitch. He just went outside and got it, pushed it out to right field. He threw 98 pitches, 65 for strikes. Really good numbers right there. Fastball, 45 pitches. The changeup really, really worked great today. The changeup was masterful. This was a pitch he learned out of spring training. 32 changeups, 16 sliders, 5 curveballs, and the 1 curveball he threw in the second inning cost him the game. After that, a couple walks, but after the third inning, after the leadoff walk, it was over. He was dialed in. 9 strikeouts, 5 of them on the changeup, 3 of them on a fastball. Pinpointed a couple fastballs, elevated a fastball. 3 walks, 2 in that second inning, 1 in the third, and after that it was nothing. He got ahead of hitters, 18 first pitch strikes out of 25 hitters. These are all things that he's been doing. This is his 12th start. The Giants have won 10 out of 11, and his last game against Kansas City, where they ended up losing after he came out of the game, he went 7 innings, no earned runs. So this is the guy. This is the pitcher that the Giants didn't score for. This was the outing that you have to turn over and he gets a loss for. And the offense was dismal again today. Clutch hitting. They got 8 hits. 2 of them were infield hits that they gave hits for. Both of them I thought were errors. But other than that, once again, we're looking at offense sputtering. Offense that needs a boost. When they come home, you got San Diego for 4 and Atlanta for 3. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get tougher. And you're going to have better starting pitching. Think about this. 6 shutouts. The last one against the Nationals. The Nationals are 27 and 30. And today was from the Marlins, who's 23 and 33. 2 lower division teams shut your offense out. Disgusting? Disappointing? Yes. Continuing? Yes. Something's got to change. Something's got to happen. And we just don't know what. But they'll be thinking about this. They'll be looking at this. There's no question they're looking at AAA to see if there's anybody there that can help them. There might be a couple switches. But it's the main guys that got to get better. You got to get better. Jung-Hoo Lee, 2 for 5. Matt Chapman, the last 2 games, really hitting the ball well. He got a base hit in the 4th inning, tried to stretch it into second base, trying to get something going. Was it wrong move? Was it a right move? Got thrown out. Maybe he's second-guessing himself. Maybe he should have stuck at first. But those are things when you start diving into the games, when you start stressing out, you start doing things like that because you're trying to make something move, make something go, get a run. This is something that the Giants now are stressing out. And when I look at these numbers, 14 runs in 8 games, not going to win you too many games. You won 3 and 5. And the opposition only had 16 runs in 8 games. Your pitching staff is only giving up 2 runs a game. 2 runs a game, and you're 3 and 5. 1 game left. Hayden Birdsong could put him on the map, maybe get a win, but it's not going to be on Birdsong. It's going to be on his offense. And tomorrow, a lefty's throwing, Ryan Weathers. Giants aren't doing well against lefties. They're 5 and 12, 27 and 14 against righties. Giants now are 15 and 17 on the road. And these numbers just keep mounting. The runs need to add up. Key hits need to happen. And we'll talk about it. Phone lines are already full. 415-808-KNBR. Let's open up the phone lines. Got a great show down the road here. Tommy Hutton is going to join me. Of course, he is the color commentator for the Miami Marlins. We're going to talk about his career. He had a nice 12-year career in the 60s and 70s. And then Rob Nen jumps in, and we're going to talk about Rob Nen, about when he won the World Series with the Florida Marlins, as well as how he feels this bullpen is. And we know how this bullpen is, number 1 in Major League Baseball, but he'll give us his opinion. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Come back with these phone calls. We got some fired up Giants fans, So we'll bring right back here on the Sports Leader, KNBR.
Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
1-1. And Lee hits a high drive towards right center field. Myers back, still going back. He'll leap, and he caught the ball, slamming into the wall. Another robbery by the Marlins outfield. I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee just crushed the ball, and Myers is still down, and somehow he's holding the ball. And the Giants literally just can't believe it.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey on a Saturday. Giants lose a tough one in Miami today, 1-0. They got shut out by 4 pitchers of the Miami Marlins. Giants had opportunities in the 1st, the 4th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. They couldn't get that run across. No timely hitting. No good on-contact hitting. And the Giants now are scuffling in the offensive column. 14 runs they've scored in 8 games on this road trip. And I'm going to keep throwing these numbers out there. They've only given up 16 runs in their 3 and 5. The pitching's been there, and Robbie Ray put a hell of a performance on today as he goes 7 innings, striking out 9. All right, 415-808-KNBR. Got a full line right here, so let's go to San Lorenzo, and let's talk to Mark. Mark, you're on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Bill. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling in.
You're a left-handed pitcher. Robbie Ray's a left-hander. The man, he dealt a masterpiece today. And the last start that you mentioned,
and you know, when you think about it, Mark, the only mistake he made, was he walked 2 guys in a row, the 7 and 8 hitter, 6-7 hitters, and the 8th hitter hits a 1-2 curveball to right center field. He retired 15 in a row. This guy was automatic after that.
Absolutely. But, Bill, I don't call it a mistake when you give up 1 run over 7 innings and you strike out, would you say, 9 people?
Struck out 9.
But my point is this, Bill, the pitching, you know, last year, where were we at last year? We were never going to have a chance last year. This year, we're in the thick of it. And I've been speaking to you since spring training, and I believe in these guys. But unfortunately, you remember back in your day when they used to have the famous phrase, the June swoon. I remember that as a kid. In the 70s, my dad would say the June swoon's coming. And the Giants would go into a slump. Well, hopefully they're slumping in May, and in June they're going to pick it up. Because I'm going to games in June, and I need to see more runs. I've been to a couple of games. With the A's, they walked it off in the 9th inning on a bases loaded out. They didn't get a hit that night either when they won. So I'm hoping the offense comes around. You're right. They need to bring in new blood. Encarnacion's ready to come in, so that's good. But you might have to
he'll be here. There's no question. He'll be in that lineup Monday when the Padres are here. They need to flush some of these guys out. I think Lamont Wade Jr. might be pushed out of a uniform here. He just has not performed well at all. And again, today 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. That might be a flip-flop there. We don't know. I'm guessing, just like anybody else. There might be some other changes. Like I said, I'm going to look at some numbers here as the show goes on what's going on in AAA. Is there anybody else that could possibly help this club? Because the offensive woes cannot continue. Because when you're looking at this team, Mark, and it's all pitching and no offense, just think if there was offense, this team would have been blowing people away.
The pitching is fabulous. I have no complaints. The bullpen, I feel more secure in the 6th inning if we got a lead. But there's something else the Giants are doing now in the month of May. They used to come back. Your highlights that you're playing against the Brewers, they came back.
Right.
There's a lot of games early in the season where the Giants, when they were down, they could still come back. And now it's the other way around in Detroit.
You're right, Mark. And the clutch hitting, putting the ball in play. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mark. So, you know, we'll find out tomorrow if they can get a win tomorrow and you have some kind of momentum coming home with this tough homestand. And tomorrow Hayden Birdsong gets the call, but it's not really Hayden Birdsong I'm worried about. I'm worried about this offense to see if they can generate any kind of early runs and add on. But you're so right about no comebacks, and they have not done that. But thanks for the call today, Mark. Let's go to Monterey and talk to Horace. Horace, you're on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Giants lose a tough one, 1-0 in Miami.
Mr. Laskey, always a pleasure. Unfortunately, the pleasure hasn't been there for the offense. It's just frustrating. I mean, this has kind of been going on for years with the offense, and I don't know if it's the hitting instructors or if it's the approach, but something's got to change, like you said. I mean, start taking a strike. I mean, I think back to playing ball, things that coaches would do to try and get you to hit, and something's got to change. And again, I love Pat Burrell and I love Damon Minor. I don't know if it's them. What's your take?
You know, I think you got to look at 2 things, Horace. I think one, you got to look at what the players are doing, and the players not making contact with 2 hitters when runners on base with 2 outs. and punching out several times today in key situations. And I think that's what we want to see a little bit more of, contact, putting the ball in play. You know, a couple times today there was balls that hit and there were errors, but they gave them infield hits. Look what happens when you put the ball in play. Things can generate runs. Things can generate base runners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't see hit and runs. I don't see, bunt them over. Got to do something to get the line moving and get to momentum. They've lost momentum.
Well, yesterday, you know what, Horace? Yesterday with 2 runs, Bob Melvin went to that bullpen like it was the 7th game of the World Series. He moved guys in and out.
I know.
And that's the first thing I thought of when I did my post game last night. This guy's generating as many runs as he can get, and now he's going to shut him down with the best bullpen in baseball. And he did a marvelous job yesterday when you worked at Beck, Walker, Miller, Rogers, Bivens, and Duvall, and you hold on to that lead and you shut down the Marlins. Today, look what the pitching did. Robbie Ray gives you 7 innings with 1 run. Randy Rodriguez comes up with a clean inning. You can't ask for more from this pitching staff.
No, and I mean when you're Robbie Ray and you go home tonight, you got to just go. I couldn't have done anything more other than maybe hit a home run, And he doesn't bat, and the pitchers don't bat anymore. But
yep. Well, and that's what happens, Horace. And you know what? You don't get upset at your teammates. That's one thing pitchers never do. You don't get upset.
No.
They know the stress they're going through. They know what they had to do. And today, every one of those guys went up there and patted him on the back, no question, saying, "Hey, we didn't score a run for you today, pal, because you did your job."
Yeah. And nobody feels worse than they do. But to change the subject, what about Duvall? What about this kid? What an amazing turnaround he has made. And he sure looks like a closer to me again. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there's no question. When you're looking at, he hasn't given up a run since April 7th. He's gone 19 in the 3rd innings, 4 hits, 6 walks, 20 strikeouts. This has been amazing. This is the guy we saw 2 years ago, if you remember, that one that got on the All-Star team. I think the confidence is there. He's more relaxed, quicker to the plate. I think right now he wants to throw more strikes than worrying about strikeouts. And I think that justifies what J.P. Martinez has taught him and worked with him. And I think that's a big, big plus for Camilo to have J.P. Martinez in there. J.P. speaks fluent Spanish. I think that is a big plus when you're talking to a player that really understands English but is more fluent in Spanish. And you can talk to him. You can relax with him. You can have conversations with him. That's what was tough with Brian Price. Brian Price did not speak Spanish. JP did, but he was the assistant pitching coach. And what JP has done has really worked this bullpen in many different ways. The starting pitching has just been brilliant. I tip my hat to that man. He has done a fantastic job with his pitching staff so far.
No doubt. Just imagine a few more runs, what our record would be right now. It's kind of crazy. Well, listen,
I agree.
Bill,
I say that
call.
too. If you could score, if you score 3 or 4 runs, this would be unbelievable. They'd have 40 wins easily by now. And right now they got 32. And I still think when you look at these 6 shutouts, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, it was no did the same thing today. No key hits at certain times. Couple balls driven good. That ball that Jung-Woo Lee hit, I thought that ball was off the wall, and that was a great catch by Myers in right center field.
Yeah. All right, Bill, thanks for taking my call. Have a great
Horace,
rest of
thanks for
your
the
night.
call. Appreciate your time. Let's go to Mountain View and talk to Michael. Michael, you're on Extra Inning post-game show. A tough loss, a great pitching job by Robbie Ray.
How are you doing, Bill?
Well, I can barely hear you, Mike. So if you can turn it up a little bit or go closer to the mic, I'm not upset. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be angry at an offense. They're trying. They had 8 hits today. They had 11 yesterday. It was just when you had to grind and get that key hit or get a guy over or hit a fly ball. It just didn't happen today. And the pitching is just, again, we can't brag about the pitching enough.
No, the pitching is great. The 3 things I would like to work on is key hitting, the bench, and not try to get a one-hit wonder to solve all your problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to have to do something here. They're going to have to. Encarnacion's will be up. There's no question. He'll be in this lineup. He'll join the club on Monday. What the move will be, we don't know, and that's all speculative. But who knows? There may be a couple other ones from AAA, and see if there's any kind of movement of some of these players that are struggling.
Yeah, but the last thing I'll say, and you take it off there, you can't expect one player to solve the problem, or you can't expect not having a good bench to solve the problem. I'll take that off there.
I'm going to tell you right now, Michael, you're absolutely right. It's not one player. It's not two players. It's not three players. When you look at this, it's the bulk of the lineup. And the bulk of the lineup, once again, did not come through. Wilmer Flores today, who has been the savior with 46 RBIs, had a tough game, went 0 for 4. Willie Adames came up, had a couple walks in the 6th and the 8th inning, had an opportunity in that first inning with bases loaded and 1 out, and struck out on a changeup down and away. Key hits, key put the ball in play, key fly ball. Something could have generated this run today, and it just didn't happen. But the Giants lose 1-0. They're 32-26. One more game tomorrow. Hayden Birdsong takes the hill. 10:40 a.m. first pitch right here on KNBR against the left-hander Ryan Weathers, who's only thrown 3 games. He was injured. He came over in San Diego in a trade a couple years ago. He's 1-0 with a 1.15 earned run average. And here's a guy that's really got some good stuff. 15 2/3 inning, 4 walks, 15 strikeouts. They have to figure out left-handed starting pitching right now on this year, 5-12, which is not impressive whatsoever. 415-808 KNBR, got a few calls on hold. We're going to take a quick break, come back with more. My name's Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on the Sports Leader.
the outside corner. Beautiful. And it was right there, right on the black. 8 strikeouts for Robbie Ray.
Welcome back to an extra inning post-game show, and beautiful day here in Northern California. I hope you're enjoying the weather, getting out, and pretty warm the last couple of days. Giants weren't warm, though. They couldn't get a run today as they got shut out by the Miami Marlins 1-0. On this road trip, they're 3-5 in the 8 games. They have one more left tomorrow morning, 10:40 first pitch. In this 3-5 record, they've scored 14 runs in these 8 games. Their pitching only gave up 16 runs. Some good numbers right there on the pitching side, no question. The month of May, they have just been tremendously the best in Major League Baseball, and the numbers are there. The bullpen, starting pitching, it has been good pitching. But somehow, some way, this offense got to get going. Somehow, some way, some new life has to come back in this offense. Hey, I've got a lot of text messages coming in to me, of course. I want to throw a hello out to Mavo. Mavo's out there reaching out to me, saying the pitching has been great, just disappointing hitting. He thinks the same thing as we all do. Maybe some changes, maybe some new names in this lineup, but we'll find out. But I just wanted to reach out and say hi to Mavo. All right, let's go to Vacaville and talk to Dan. Dan, you're on the extra inning post-game show with Bill Laskey. Giants lose the tough one, 1-0.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I know it was early in the game, but I feel like the Giants really had an opportunity to set the tone there in the first inning. You know, Ramos with a leadoff base hit, and then Jung-Hoo Lee comes up with the base hit, and then Flores comes up with a nice, productive out, moves Ramos over to third, and then Matt Chapman grinds out a great at-bat, walks, loads the bases. And then here comes Adames, right? Our 7-year guy.
Yeah.
And he comes
you're absolutely right.
And he was just swinging out of his shoes. I feel like he was trying to just blast one out of the park where, base hit, score a couple runs. And then
a fly ball. A fly ball would have worked. A deep fly ball.
Yeah.
Anything. Put the ball in play. I'm right there with you. And Dan, the other thing is you had it set up. You had it set up with bases loaded, just like you said. Flores hits a deep fly ball. Chapman works a beautiful walk. He fouls off some great pitches. And you're setting up perfectly in the top of the first inning to strike first.
Yeah, and just set the tone for the game, right? And then Adames strikes out, and Yaz comes up and just absolutely just looked lost up there and strikes out.
Yeah, he's been struggling. He has been struggling in the month of May. I don't remember even a hard hit ball off of him on this road trip. A couple base hits. He flew one out to left field for a little chink base hit today. But you know what? When you're looking at this offense, you can't just dive into Adames and Yastrzemski. It's 1 through 9, and this is what I keep saying to everybody. This offense, somehow, some way, they got to have a blowout game. See if they can get double digits. See if somehow they can get some life in this lineup, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, they need a spark. They need a spark, and it hasn't happened. Maybe Encarnacion can come up and take some reps at first base and and give Wade a break because Wade has just not looked great this year.
The other thing, Dan, it disappoints me as an ex-pitcher when you see guys like Robbie Ray going out there, his 12th start, and he's limiting the damage, and he's keeping these guys in the game, and they couldn't scratch a run out for him. He throws a shutout against Kansas City for 7 innings. They end up losing that game. He has been pitching so good in the month of May. Just strikeouts today. I just loved him throwing his changeup today. Threw 32 changeups. There's a new pitch that he just learned out of spring training. Boy, it was masterful today.
I know he's got a sub-3 ERA, and he goes up and just absolutely deals today, and the Giants can't even scrap a run together. I don't know.
He walks out today with a 2.43 earned run average in 70 1/3 innings, and he's only given up 48 hits. He's got 77 strikeouts and 30 walks, and this guy is now 7-1, and he could easily be 10-0, and I mean that.
He's definitely been a bright spot, and hopefully an all-star this year.
Yeah, I agree too. He's on his way. I mean, he's got one Cy Young on his mantle. He keeps doing this up, and he's maybe going to have another one because today, if he would have won that game, he would have been the first 8-game winner in Major League Baseball. There's a few of them that have 7, and he deserves it. He deserves better fate today than losing 1-0. But, Dan, thanks for the call today. I appreciate your time. Let's go out to Napa and talk to Jerry. Jerry, you're on the Extra Inning postgame show. A disappointing loss for the San Francisco Giants, but there's still 6 games over 500 at 32-26.
Well, with some hitting, they could have been in first place, no sweat, because the Dodgers aren't absolutely set.
I'm right there with you. I think every Giants fan's watching that, Jerry. I don't think we're surprising anybody. The offense just could not score a run today.
And now they lost one of their best relief pitchers.
Pardon me?
And, if you look at this lineup, they knew what they had coming into this season. A lot of these guys strike out over 20% of the time. Matos, I believe, is one of the only ones that's like at 16%. And I don't understand
and you're right.
why.
And you're right. The strikeouts mounted yesterday, even though they won 2-0. They had 12 strikeouts yesterday, and today they had 8. But it was the clutch hit that they couldn't come up with today.
12 runners on base today.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is with Melvin? He just refuses to play young players. Yastrzemski looks like crap. He's struggling. In one of those slumps that he gets in.
It's not just one guy, though, Jerry. It's everybody. That's what I'm trying to get to everybody today. It's not just one guy we can target. This whole lineup is struggling. That's why he's moving people around. And I love him trying to get some kind of flavor in this lineup. Today, having Ramos lead off, he goes 2 for 3. Jung-Hoo Lee goes 2 for 5 with that ball deep to right center field. Wilmer Flores had a tough at-bat today. They were throwing him a lot of changeups and sliders away. He goes 0 for 4 and hits into a double play in the 3rd inning. Chapman's starting to hit the ball today, 2 for 3. Yesterday, of course, 2 for 2 with the home run. But after that, flip a coin because you really don't have any consistent numbers after that.
Well, they need to do something. They need to shake up the lineup because if I'm a pitcher, I'm suing them for non-support. That was sickening today. I felt sorry for Robbie Ray.
As I said earlier, Jerry, I was in those games too where you lose 2-1, 1-0, and you walk into that clubhouse and everybody's tapping you on your back, and the hitters feel a lot worse than what you do. You go out there and you do your job, and he has done a tremendous job this year in 12 of his starts, and that's his first loss. And looking at his record being 7-1 with a 2.4 earned run average, you cannot say enough about Robbie Ray this year.
Nope. I hope Birdsong comes around and pitches better tomorrow.
Well, I don't know if you can get any better with 1 earned run, 7 innings, but I think what we got to worry about, Jerry, is what offense are we going to see tomorrow against a lefty, because they have struggled against left-handed starters.
Yeah, I know. I don't have a good feeling about tomorrow. I don't know if Encarnacion's going to save them either.
Flip that thought. We got to flip that thought, and hopefully
they
can get some early runs.
Well, they're due to beat a left-hander, but this kid's tough, man. He is.
Ryan Weathers is a very good pitcher. Yeah, young pitcher, too, 25 years old. He got traded over to the Marlins for Garrett Cooper and Sean Reynolds. That was a while ago, and he was a number 1 pick for the San Diego Padres. So this kid's got some spunk. He's been hurt for a while. He's only started 3 games, but he's only given up 2 earned runs in almost 16 innings. So this is something they're going to have to go out and figure it out tomorrow and figure it out early.
I think Buster's going to have to do something. He's going to have to shake something up, send somebody out and wake these guys up. They're too complacent.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Encarnacion. Yeah, Encarnacion will be on this roster when they get home against San Diego, and you just don't know what transaction will happen. Again, looking at AAA numbers, there's nobody really scalding the ball down there. They're players that Bob Melvin has seen in the past, so if they're going to make a change, they might do that. We don't know, but something's got to happen to generate some runs, especially with this offense, especially how this pitching's been doing.
Eldridge isn't ready yet, so we won't be seeing him. But
no.
We got to get.
Well, Jerry, thanks for the call. Thanks for the call, Jerry. And it's the same thing. We're beating a dead horse here. The offense struggled today, but losing 1-0, it's a good gut punch right there, especially after winning yesterday 2-0, only getting 2 runs. Bob Melvin, I thought he did a great job yesterday with the bullpen. Today, he really didn't need to, but he didn't generate any runs in this offense. But have a good day, Jerry. Let's go out to Hawaii and talk to my buddy Bert. Bert, you're on Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey. Giants struggling again. This offense did not come up with a run today.
Yeah, how you doing, Bill? I hope you're doing fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well,
I think I'm just like all Giants fans. You're watching this game and you're frustrated because you're watching Robbie Ray. Yeah. 15 hitters in a row. 15. He was dialed in after throwing 30 pitches in the second inning, and he got through 7 innings. And that was just a gut punch. He was out there every inning and dialed in. And I loved what I said earlier about him throwing more changeups today. Here's a pitch he just learned, and, man, he was 32 changeups, 45 fastballs. That's a great mix, and he had him off balance all day.
Yeah, no, so just repeating what everybody else is saying, but for the Giants offense, this is how it's been and somebody said this earlier, the Giants have been like this for 4 years now. It's been a while. So to expect them to be different this year, I mean, we've seen this already, and this is how it's going to be for the rest of the year. Because even if you bring in Encarnacion, I mean, he's a good hitter and stuff, but he's not going to be able to really, carry the team. I mean, basically, guys like Adames and Chapman, who we paid the dollars to, is the guys that got to do something. And we kind of see.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And you keep. Bert, you keep hearing, let's look at the baseball card. Let's look at what he usually does. And the other thing that I threw out there the other day was, a lot of these superstars that get big contracts, they don't settle in it right. But the at-bats trying to do too much, like today in the first inning, I talked about it earlier with a caller, he had an opportunity right there, put the ball in play. Bases loaded, one out. You are the man right then, and he just whiffed. And the swings were just like he was trying to hit a grand slam when that's not what they needed right then. Those are the at-bats that I'm looking at, and I kind of circle on my scorecard that are meaningful at-bats, and that's what they're not doing. They're not coming up with a clutch hit.
Yeah, and just looking at the AAA side, I got to see a couple of games on TV here. What we've got on AAA is McCrary in center field. We got Hunter Bishop in right field. We got Jake Lamb, who's a DH. We've seen Brett Wisely. The only wild card guy would be Luciano, and we've seen him before. I mean, he's such a streaky guy. So really, there's not much help at the AAA level.
I was looking at the same thing, and that's what I'm saying. There's really nothing there. I know they picked up another catcher. Yeah, they picked up another catcher, and he's hitting the ball a little bit better, but he's been around. I think he was with the Cardinals, isn't he? I'm trying to think of his name. I don't have it in front of me.
Kinziger or something like that, correct. But even Bailey's a big disappointment. I mean, Yastrzemski is he's a Lamont Wade Jr. waiting to happen. He's every year he does the same thing. He gets hot, and then next thing you know, he's batting like 200 for the rest of the year. So, I mean, this is what the Giants is. I enjoy listening to the games. So I enjoy, the 6 months of baseball and listening to KNBR. So, it's still exciting. The Giants are still in it. They still got a chance. So we'll see how it goes.
Sure.
But
I think Bert, you're with a majority. Bert, you're with a majority of fans. We want to see better. We want to see this team get more wins and have better baseball at bats. I think the offense, everybody's looking when they come up to bat, okay, how are they going to get through this? I'm looking at Edward Cabrera, who was a pretty good pitcher, but he threw a lot of changeups today in what he threw. He threw 89 pitches. 30 of them were changeups, and they were swinging at him. And they were getting into 2-strike counts, and they were swinging over him. A changeup is a masterful pitch when you can throw it right. You know that. It's just what he did to this lineup at certain times where he didn't throw the fastball. He went to the secondary pitches, and they couldn't even make contact with it.
Well, our offense is what it is. It's been like that for years. But one more quick comment there, Bill, and just
go ahead.
Turning to the starting pitching side, Logan Webb. I know it's hard to pick on him, but I always get frustrated with him because whenever the big games come up, he's always giving up early runs. And with the Giants' offense that it is, whenever he gives up like 2-3 runs early, it feels like we're down 6-0 and stuff, and we're really struggling. And I get so frustrated that Logan Webb cannot, come up big in the big games. And
I think you hit it on the head there first, Bert, is when you said the early runs he gives up, the first inning runs. And we always talk about the starting pitcher. If you get him in the first inning, you got him. And I think that's what he gets behind the 8 ball in the first inning, trying to make that perfect pitch. And he gets behind hitters. And that's not what we've seen in Logan Webb. Even though he has more strikeouts this year, when you're looking at 84 strikeouts in 73 innings, he's given up 23 earned runs, 2.8 earned run average, which is very good. But I'm right there with you. It seems like early parts of the games he gives up those early runs and they can't catch up. And just like what you said, it magnifies the game a little bit more with 2, 3, 4 runs. And the Giants just don't have that spunk to get back in those games.
Thanks for taking my call, Bill. Nice talking to you. I'll keep in touch.
It's always a pleasure, Bert, and you bring up good points, and there's no question there about what the Giants need to do, and we all are watching these games. We all are watching this. We're watching this offense, and where's the blame game? There isn't a blame game. The Giants' offense just are not scoring runs when they need to, and today was a perfect example. They had an opportunity to win this game. Robbie Ray threw just an exceptional game. When you go out there throwing 7 innings, only giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run. He gave up a hit to the leadoff hitter, Ramirez, and he gave up a hit to Sanjo when he gave up the only run he gave up after walking 2. That's probably where he's going to be disappointed at, in walking 2 hitters in a row after he got 2 outs in the second. 415-808 KNBR. We're going to take a quick break, come back with more. Tommy Hutton coming down the road, Rob Nen coming down the road in the show, but had great calls so far. Let's continue the conversation. The Giants lose a tough one today, 1-0. Tomorrow, Hayden Birdsong takes the hill against Ryan Weathers, and that first pitch is right here at 10:40 a.m., and the Giants will finish out this 9-game road trip and come home to face the San Diego Padres for 4. I'm Bill Laskey. This is KNBR, the sports leader.
swinging on the changeup. Nasty. 9 strikeouts, 7 excellent innings.
All right, back on Extra Inning post-game show on a Saturday with Bill Laskey, diving into Robbie Ray a little bit deeper, going 7 innings, punching out 9. And when you look at what his pitch count was today, when I look at 98 pitches, 65 for strikes, after the second inning, he had already thrown 42 pitches. He threw 12 in the first, and then he got in a jam. He walked a couple hitters, gave up the run in the second. He had already thrown 30 pitches. So that was 42. And what does he do after that? 12, 11, 11, 12, and 10. That right there just got him focused, got ahead of hitters, used the changeup today, which I think he's going to start using a little bit more now. Today was really the changeup day. He really graduated in throwing that on 2 strike counts. He had 5 strikeouts on changeups, down and in, down and away. The fastball threw about 97, which was pretty good for him. He threw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball in the 7th inning to the last hitter. And what did he do? He struck out Fortes with a changeup to end it. So when you got a 2-pitch pitch like that, when you're throwing 97 and you throw a changeup 86, 85, that's exactly what Robbie Ray did today to the Marlins. And there was the conclusion of it was 2 hits, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, and just a fabulous game for Robbie Ray. The Giants just couldn't muster a run to give him a no decision, and he ends up taking his first loss of the year. He's 7-1. Earned run average went down to a 2.4 earned run average on a great season he's had, and he's throwing 70 1/3 innings. Just really good, solid baseball. All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go out to Berkeley and talk to my buddy Andrea. Andrea, Extra Inning post-game show on a Saturday. It was not a fun day in Miami.
No, but we're looking forward to a Sunday fun day, hopefully with Birdsong on the mound.
Everything in your way, right? Birdsong, Sunday fun day. You're
right.
Dialed in for tomorrow, Andrea.
Yes, definitely. And first things first, happy Gemini birthday to Dave Fleming. Gemini is the communicator of the Zodiac.
49 years old today. Yeah.
Yeah, May 31, 1976, correct. So just really happy birthday there. And I heard you on KNBR a couple of days ago. You mentioned about having a new co-host, your dog.
I'm getting a new co-host next Saturday. Yes, Clover's coming to town. Bernice Mountain Dog. I lost my last 2 here in the last year or so, and yep, she's coming to town Saturday. So you might hear a little barker in the background.
Oh yes, no, I look forward to that. Our little fur babies, very important to us. And
totally agreed. And my last 2 just took the love of my life away, boy. Both of them. Oliver was with me for 11 and a half years. All my producers used to say, "Is the co-host ready?" And all of a sudden I'd say Oliver, and he'd bark, and we'd have laughs. And I missed him so. Yeah, it's time to put a new one in our house and our new family, and I'm looking forward to bringing Clover home next Saturday.
Yes, yeah, I know we all look forward to that, and we just appreciate your positive energy on the show. And, also calling it as you see them, it's definitely been a challenge with the Giants not scoring any runs. I mean, like you said, Robbie Ray deserved a better fate. October 1, 1991.
And, Andrea, some of those games like that, you look at them at the end of the year, you look in the rearview mirror and go, man, we lost that game 1-0. They lost 3-0 earlier in this road trip. Games that you're close and you could have scored here or had a key hit. Both those balls today, the one to left field that Fitzgerald hit, yeah, Hernandez catches it at the wall. Yes, it could have been over, but he had managed to get back on it. But the ball that Jung-Hoo Lee hit to right center field, that was a big league play. That was a big league catch by Myers.
Yeah, that was kind of heartbreaking because, when it goes that far in a Jung-Hoo Lee, it's like, okay, we can almost take for granted that it's a home run, but not so fast. And speaking of not so fast, there's Verlander, February 20th, 1983. So, again, as you know, he's missing yet another start. And I always say we got to manage our expectations with Verlander, the Saturn transit, hopefully delay not denial, but it's really frustrating. And
it is, and I think Bob Melvin answered it very well today, Andrea. He just said, when he feels right, he'll come back. And right now he felt good with a bullpen. He flew him home to San Francisco. He's probably having a bullpen today or tomorrow. And in the long run, he's looking not this next start, maybe one more. But when you look at what has transpired to put him in that position of being on the IL, Kyle Harrison has come back and thrown 2 gems of games yesterday and the one in Washington. So you got to look at the future with one of the top lefties that they have. So it's a good switch, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see what they do when Verlander comes back and what kind of moves they will make.
Right. Like I say, the Giants got an extra pitching coach in the deal, but for the rest, he's yet to get a win. So we got to manage our expectations. But on a happier note, I do look forward to fellow Sagittarius Rob Nen and his interview with you.
That'll be a fun one. But Andrea, thanks for the call. I appreciate your call today. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, and we'll see if we can manage a fun day Sunday tomorrow.
Yes, from your lips to the
All right, let's go out to Richmond. Let's go out to Richmond and talk to Robert. Robert, you're on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. Tough game today. What's going on?
Hey, Bill. It's ironic because my name is actually Robert Ray. I don't go by Robbie, but I became I'm an Angels fan. Don't kill me. Became an Angels fan because of Chili Davis. When I was about 7 or 8, they traded Chili. Yeah, they traded Chili to the Angels, and I was so young I went with them, and then I think they traded him off to Minnesota, and I was too old to switch teams. Anyhow, would love to see Chili Davis as the hitting instructor. Maybe bring a little life into. I love Pat, but might be time for a change. What do you feel about?
I don't know if the change of a hitting coach or a pitching coach is going to make any difference. I think it's got to go on the players and how they're attacking the zone. How are they adjusting to different pitches being thrown, the secondary pitch, the changeup? What can they see to put the ball in play? More contact, more thought pattern in between one at bat to the next. Adjustments like that, and I'm not seeing that as much as I'd like to see.
Agreed. What do you think about Trout coming over? Because I'm hearing a lot of rumors.
Yeah, that name's been popping up a lot.
Call off the air. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay, Robert. I appreciate the call, but we Mike Trout's name's come up here recently, and I think the Angels are looking for a boatload of talent if he would jump. The contract is huge, so you'd have to have the Angels picking up a good lump sum of that. But you got to look at all these past years, probably the last 5 years of all the injuries that he has had. Sure, when he is healthy, boy, he could be a superstar. One of the best players I've ever seen coming up through the Angel system. He's always been there and never had an opportunity in the playoffs. Do you look at him as a possibility of bringing a new life to this lineup? Or are you bringing somebody in that you're going to have to give up a lot of prospects for? I don't know if the Giants are ready to do that. I really don't. I think you're going to see him maybe, a team like the Cubs or maybe Atlanta or somebody of that nature if they want to take a test drive on him. But you're going to have to give up a ton of prospects to the Angels if you're going to put Mike Trout in a Giants uniform or any other Major League uniform. All right, let's go to Dawson. He's in San Mateo. Dawson, you're on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Hope you're well today.
Hello, Bill.
I'm right here, Dawson. How are you, my friend?
George Nelson.
Pardon me?
Nelson in San Mateo.
Okay, Nelson, I apologize. I read the name wrong. I apologize. How are you doing today, Nelson?
Oh, fine, Bill. I wanted to bring up something that you talked about several weeks ago. It's about the Brandon Crawford Day.
Okay.
Brandon Crawford Day. And I wanted to add, I didn't hear it said, Bill, but he reminded me of Derek Jeter of the Yankees.
Derek Jeter was a fabulous player with the Yankees. Brandon Crawford did that same kind of energy here in a Giants uniform. I'm so glad the Giants took the time and brought him and his family in to salute him, to congratulate him. I think he was the best shortstop the Giants have ever had, and I'll pat you on the back there, Nelson, when you agree with me, because I think he did so much for the Giants up the middle.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific, Crawford, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the game today?
I didn't think too much about it, Bill. I just listened on the radio at KNBR when the game was playing, and I know Robbie Ray's been doing real well.
He pitched another gem today. You can't even argue about one mistake that he made, a little curveball up that the 8-hitter hit in right center field. After that, when you're looking at what he did, 15 hitters in a row to end it, and he pushed himself through 7 innings.
Yeah.
Well, Nelson, thank you for the call. I appreciate your time today. Please give me a call later on, and as the season progresses, you take care, okay?
Okay, Bill, I always enjoy your show.
Thank you. I appreciate your time today, too, and I appreciate you picking up the phone and calling me. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate you, sir. All right, let's move on here. The Giants end up losing a game 1-0 today. They just could not scratch a run for Robbie Ray, where he takes his first loss of the season. We go 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. And that run occurred in the second inning when he walked Myers and Fortes after he got the first 2 hitters out, and he went on a 1-2 curveball, tried to go down and away, left it up a little bit, and Sanya ended up getting a base hit. That was the only mistake he made. Only gave up 2 hits, the first leadoff hitter, Ramirez, and, of course, the base hit that stung him for the 1-0 loss. Coming up next, I sit down with Rob Nen. Rob played for the Giants, as you know. He was a big part of the Giants. He's on the Wall of Fame for the Giants. He's a Florida Marlin World Series champion. We talked to Rob about his years with the Florida Marlins under Jim Leyland as a manager. And then we dive into this bullpen of the Giants, the best in baseball. Love to have you hear what he has to talk about him. And we talk a little bit about some of the characters down there, some of the arms, some of the different advantages the Giants can throw out there in the bullpen. And boy, like I said, this is the best bullpen in baseball. They have an overall earned run average of 2.4, best out of 30 teams. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Rob Nen coming up next right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey on KNBR. My guest today, three-time National League All-Star. He was a World Series champion with the Florida Marlins. In 2001, he was a National League save leader with 45. You can also see his beautiful plaque on the San Francisco Giants Wall of Fame on the Embarcadero. Let's bring in a guest. He's been on the show a lot. My good friend Rob Nen. Rob Nen, how are you?
Hey, Bill. How you doing? Good to be on.
Yeah, I'm great to talk to you again, Rob. And, of course, the Giants are playing the Marlins currently on this weekend. And the first thing I always think of is 1997, the Florida Marlins. That was a big year where the Marlins really finished behind the Braves, but you guys really took care of business in the playoffs. When you're going back to the season, the Braves finished with 101 wins. The Florida Marlins finished with 92. It seems like you guys were chasing them all year.
Yeah, they had Smoltz and Glavine and all these guys, established guys out starting and the top of the top guys, and we definitely chased them all year, and we never really caught them for the most part. Luckily, the wild card got us in, and like I say, we got hot towards the end of the season and just kind of kept rolling.
Your pitching coach was Larry Rothschild, pitching coach that's been going on forever. Jim Leland was your manager. When you were thinking about Rothschild as your pitching coach, what were some of the things that he detailed to you as being the closer of the Marlins that year?
He was great. I struggled that year a little bit, pretty much all year, and he was just a guy that really kind of was in my corner, and really somebody that we worked on stuff, worked on mechanics, worked on the mental side of it. We were able to, kind of get me through and still, be consistent for the most part and be, have things work out the right way. So, but he was a great guy, great mechanical guy, and great mental side of the game, and taught us how to really go about attacking hitters and being aggressive.
Rob, when you were looking at that pitching staff, it was solid. Kevin Brown, Livan Hernandez, Alex Fernandez, Al Leiter, Pat Rapp were your starting pitchers. Kevin Brown 16-8, Livan was 9-3, Alex Fernandez 17-12. It was a solid starting staff. Then you had to look at the bullpen, and of course you were the closer, but Jay Powell was in 74 games, Dennis Cook 59, Felix Heredia 56. As the season progressed, as you got into the playoffs, the strength was definitely the pitching staff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from the starting rotation, like you said, you named all those guys. We ended up having Alex Fernandez go down towards the end of the season, which was a big blow. But for the most part, the starters would go, 6-7 innings, and it was able to keep the bullpen semi-fresh for the most part. Kevin was definitely getting late in games, and which made it to where we weren't out there every day, and we were able to get some leads and hopefully score some runs, and the bullpen didn't get taxed as much as it could have. So we had great bullpen guys down there, Cookie and Jay Powell and Felix, and just a good core group of guys.
Rob Nen joining me on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. It's always great to have a good battery mate. Charles Johnson was that kind of guy behind the plate. Darren Dalton came over later in the year in a trade. What did Charles Johnson, as a catcher, do to your pitching staff? Was it more mental? Was it physical? Was it just staying on the same page, understanding what he wanted to throw at certain times?
He was great. He was a guy back there that would call a great game. He had a phenomenal arm, and he would block everything he threw. So for me, with my 0-2 sliders or 1-2 sliders, my out pitch was he'd block everything. And for me, that was something that I really appreciated, that he put the effort in to get in front of stuff. And I knew that I could bounce balls as far as the slider, and he'd get in front of it and knock it down and keep it in front of him. So for, anytime you've got a pitcher out there that's able to have the confidence in the catcher to call a great game, throw guys out, and to slow the game down and block balls, it's a 10.
Rob, that bullpen, as I named, Jay Powell, Dennis Cook, Felix Heredia, there was a couple other guys that got in games, but you were mainly the closer. You had 73 games, 9-3, 3.8 earned run average, 35 saves, 81 punch-outs. I look at Jay Powell as a setup man, but he was in 74 games, 7-2 with a 3.2, 65 strikeouts. Was there ever an opportunity where he closed games, or was he mostly that 7-8 guy, 7-8 inning guy?
Yeah, he was pretty much 7-8 inning guy. Back then, Leland really never said there was roles down there. The only one that really had them was me, and in between there, he would mix and match and use guys differently. But for the most part, Jay was my setup guy. Cookie was the left-handed specialist guy. Felix, well, between him and Felix, they kind of went back and forth. And then we had, often Seiko and some of these guys that were just, they had such great stuff. You could throw them anywhere in that lineup or in that game, and they would get the job done.
Rob, in that World Series, the Cleveland Indians came to town, and boy, it was a great series, a 7-game series. You ended up getting 3 saves in that series. How pressure-packed was that for you?
It was a great series, but it was a little tough for me. We started off in Cleveland. It was snowing, and coming from Florida and not being used to that cold weather. I struggled those first 2 games in Cleveland, and unfortunately, I got out of them. But then after we kind of got back home, I settled back in. Kind of the heat kind of got going a little bit. We had a little better weather and all that stuff. But yeah, it was the stress of being towards the end of the season, only 2 teams playing, and you're basically on this stage where everybody's watching these games for the most part, and there's definitely some pressure in there.
Rob Nen joining me on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. You can see his beautiful plaque on the San Francisco Giants Wall of Fame. Well, let's look into this 2025 Giants bullpen, and it's been remarkable, Rob, when you're looking at Randy Rodriguez with a .79 earned run average, Camilo Duvall, a 1.1 earned run average, Eric Miller, 1.5, Tyler Rogers, 1.8, and Ryan Walker's got a high earned run average, and as relievers, and as well as I know, a couple bad outings brought the earned run average up, but he's got to have an earned run average around 2. What have you seen about this bullpen, the consistency on top of it all?
That's what those guys have been doing. They've been going out and every time they get leads or it's tie game or they're down by 1, they're keeping the game close, and they're not giving up the extra 1 run or the extra 2 runs that really kind of devastates a team where, it's if you're not scoring a whole lot of runs, that extra run really matters, to the team. So those guys are going out there putting a solid effort in. They're out going out there and throwing the heck of a ball, and it's great to see. That's what a lot of the Giants stuff we used to always have. Saves is always big on the bullpens and keeping those guys, kind of together down there and getting good core guys down there.
Well, Rob, the biggest question, of course, is Camilo Duvall against Mr. Walker. And you start thinking about Ryan Walker being the saves leader. He's got over 10 now. Camilo Duvall, of course, 2 years ago was a National League All-Star, throwing the heck out of the ball. Do you think there's any animosity between these guys? Do you think they even think about that anymore?
No, I think they're professionals down there. Those guys want to go out and win. They want to do anything they can for the team. I mean, it's definitely nice to have a named closer and somebody that's going to be there the full time in each and every game, because it kind of sets everything else up prior going into that. The 7th inning guy and the 8th inning guy and the lefties and all that stuff. But those guys are professionals, man. They go out and do their job, and they know what they need to do to help that team win.
Does it help, Rob, when they're down there knowing what innings they're in, even though they're middle inning guys? Is it really question, like when the phone rings, is there a panic in them? Is there a confidence of saying, hey, we're in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, these are your innings? Or does it really matter when you see lights-out numbers like this?
Well, with the way those guys are throwing, that you can pretty much throw them kind of anywhere. But for the most part, it's nice to know, as the game goes along, who's the next guy up. And that's kind of, those guys all should kind of know the rules a little bit. All should know, hey, listen, I've got the 6th or 7th inning. It's coming up. Now, all of a sudden, the 4th and 5th inning, I'm kind of watching who's hitting, who's going to come out, how's the lineup going to turn over, so that who I may face in that 6th or 7th inning. So those guys all kind of somewhat know the rules a little bit, as far as they're all interchangeable because they all have great stuff. But with that being said, it's always nice to say, okay, it's a 5th inning, this guy pitched or this guy hit, I may face these guys the next inning if I get a chance to get in the game, if I have to get in the game. So it's definitely nice to know where you're going to be in.
Rob Nen joining me on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show for a few more minutes. Rob, the big question that I've always had, of course I played many years before you, where relievers pitched more in 1 inning. And even when your era, they were through 2 or 3 innings, some of them, maybe 1 1/3, 1 2/3 to get a save. But right now it's changed. They're giving them 1 inning, 3 outs. Get 3 outs. That's your job. Why is that?
At least for my job, closer, being the closer, our job was, as many times we'd get up and get in games, and all the games you'd get up and the adrenaline's going and you don't get in the game, and then your adrenaline's going and you're in the game. For me, it was always if I came in the 8th inning, that adrenaline is so high because you want to get out of it. Then all of a sudden you sit back down, the adrenaline kind of goes away a little bit. You got to kind of fire that back up somehow, some way. And a lot of times it was me putting guys on base that would kind of kick me in the butt a little bit to get going. And so, the 1 inning to go out to the adrenaline, everything going, I mean, I think that's the perfect situation. But with that being said, there's always times you're going to have to go out and pitch the 8th inning or 2/3 or a third of that inning, and just to get out of it because the bullpen's either taxed or the setup guys, end up, kind of getting a little bit of a jam or whatever. But you definitely, it's an adrenaline-based job down there because everything's on the line. It's the end of the game or whatever it is. So the 1 inning is definitely a better stint, but there's times you have to do both.
Why do relievers get upset by giving up the starters' runs or the middle relievers' runs when they come on? Why do they get upset when those guys score and they don't worry about their own stats? That's one thing I've always, when I talk to relievers, they get so upset when they give up a base hit if guys are on base and the runs end up going to the next guy in front of them. Why is that? Where is that mentality from?
Well, I think it's pride. I think guys go down in that bullpen, and you get a starter who goes out and goes. Let's just say he goes 6 or 7 innings, and he comes out in the middle of an inning. He's got a guy on base, and he hadn't given up anything, but there's a guy on second. You go out there and give up, with the first pitch and give up a hit, or the second batter you give up a hit and the run scores, and you definitely feel for those guys. And I took, that was the one thing I truly took a lot of pride in. It was going out there, and if I had my buddies, Tim Worrell or Felix or any, Scotty Air out there, and they gave up a couple of hits and guys are on base, I took pride in getting them, saving their runs and getting them a clean inning so that at least, it kind of feeds off each other. Once you do it, the next guy wants to do it, the next guy wants to do it. So it's definitely, it's a camaraderie down there, and everybody's kind of pulling for each other.
As we finish up, Rob, we start looking, it's the end of May, we're going into June and July, All-Star break. Is there a time set here with relievers and games pitched and how much they have to have work, going into the games, how many times they have to get into an inning? Is there something in the mental part of the game where you want to get out there and compete?
Well, I think we all want to get out there and get in as many games as you can. For me, it was trying to get in as many as I can, whether it was, I didn't like sitting. The longer I sat, the more rust I had. And so for me, it was like every third day, I'd like to try to get in the game and go out there. But as far as a quota, I think it's a matter of how the innings go. And if they're taxing innings where you're struggling, where you got guys on base and that gets to be a lot. Or, if you're going out there and you're pitching multiple innings, I think that's the only thing that really puts a stress on a guy's arm and a guy's mentality and all that stuff. But for the most part, all those guys know that they're going to get in between, 60 and 75 games a year. And they all prepare for it in the off season. They all work their butt off in the gym, make sure they're ready, mentally ready, physically ready to be able to get in that 65 to 75 games. And that's what their job is.
Last one for you, Rob. J.P. Martinez talking about throwing strike one, getting ahead of the count. We all know that's one of the best pitches in the game of baseball. This bullpen has been lights out, throwing strike after strike. Some of them throwing 9 out of 9 straight strikes, 10 out of 11. It's been ridiculous watching these guys come in and compete. You're a bullpen guy. You're watching this Giants bullpen be so aggressive at every which way they can. Tell me your thoughts moving forward. Will this bullpen stay the same?
Well, listen, they're all going to go through ups and downs, and they're all going to have, you're all going to, as a course of a year, you kind of go through a dead arm. You kind of go through a stretch where you're, maybe 2 or 3 games where you're struggling a little bit. So everybody's going to kind of go through that stuff. But what they're doing now is they're feeding off each other. They're all going out there and going, oh, shoot, so-and-so pitched, 1 inning and he threw 15 pitches, 12 strikes. That's kind of, I want to go out and do the same thing. I want to be aggressive. I want to go out there and throw strikes. I want to get the defensive guys behind me, on their toes and they're not on their heels because I'm throwing ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. So, it's a pattern that when those guys are out there doing it, it definitely feeds off each other. And what those guys are doing now is amazing. They just got to keep it kind of going and stay within themselves and know that there's going to be some ups and downs. But for the most part, they're killing it right now.
Well, Rob, I'd cue up the music, Smoke on the Water, but it's past that. But again, it was great always talking to you, my friend, and I always loved watching you compete on the mound.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Bill.
That was Rob Nen on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. Sound right, boys. Sound right, boys.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying Play KNBR.
Cabrera throws, and Fitzgerald crushes one to deep left center field. Hernandez back at the wall. He'll leap, and he catches it at the wall. And he might have robbed Tyler Fitzgerald of a home run.
Back on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show on KNBR with Bill Laskey. A tough loss today in Miami, 1-0. The Giants got shut out, 6th shutout of this season. The second game on this road trip, also the Giants were shut out in the Nationals, and that just happened last Saturday. So hopefully these Saturdays can stop with these shutouts and get some runs. And tomorrow they finish it up in Miami. They finish up the 9-game road trip. They're 3-5 on the road trip. In these 3-5 record, the Giants have scored 14 runs in 8 games. But the pitching has only given up 16 runs in those 8 games. So when you're looking at possibilities, a ball hit here, a ball hit here, just like today, just what you heard what Dave Fleming said, the deep fly ball that Fitzgerald hit, caught at the wall. The ball that was hit in the 7th inning by Jung-Hoo Lee, Dane Myers went all the way back to right center field, leaped and caught it. Little of those balls, one of those balls hit the wall or go over, and the Giants end up winning this game. But with all the offensive struggles, that's what's been happening here with the San Francisco Giants. 32-26, 6 games over 500. No question, they're playing good baseball, but the offense just has to generate some key hits. And definitely, I keep saying this, score more runs. And I think we all want that to happen. Hayden Birdsong on the hill tomorrow. Hayden's 2-1 with a 2.4 earned run average. Of course, he pitched his first game against Kansas City, went 5 innings, only giving up 1 run, but that was unearned. Pitched pretty well in Detroit, only went 4 2/3. 32 2/3 innings, 35 strikeouts. So some good pitching. He's started. This will be his 3rd start, and the Giants need him again tomorrow. But the biggest question, we keep continuing to go back to it. We did it on every phone call today. The offense has to get something going. And they're going against a left-hander, Ryan Weathers, a very good pitcher the Marlins picked up from the San Diego Padres. He was a #1 pick back in the day. He only pitched 3 games. He was injured most of the front of the season. He's 1-0 with a 1.1 earned run average. He's gone 15 2/3 innings, only given up 2 earned runs. So their work is ahead of them. 15 strikeouts already and 4 walks. So that'll be the first time tomorrow, first pitch right here at 10:40 a.m. And then the Giants travel back, and they play right back in it Monday against the San Diego Padres. 4 games against one of the National League West contenders, and they're battling them for second place right now. And then the Braves come in for 3. So a tough 7-game homestand, but we need to get some runs, get some pitching, and the next thing you know, the Giants can turn this around and double these wins. Hopefully they'll get some runs tomorrow and get a nice win for that long flight back from Miami. Coming up next, I sat down with a good friend. I've known him for many years, Tommy Hutton, and Tommy is now he's been the color commentator for the Marlins. I've had him on a couple times in the past few years. Had a pretty good career, 12 years back in the 60s and 70s. He was a first baseman. Sometimes he DH'd back then, or pinch hit, I should say, not DH'd. In the Dodger years, when he was with the 60s, Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, some great stories he's going to lead into here. The Phillies back in the day with Carlton and Oscar Gamble, Boa, Schmidt. He played with a lot of great Hall of Famers, and he's done a great job on the TV side for the Miami Marlins. That's coming up next. Sit back as I have a nice discussion with a good friend of mine, Tommy Hutton, and that's coming up next right here on the Sports Leader.
So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning postgame show on KNBR with Bill Laskey. My guest today played 12 seasons in Major League Baseball with the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Blue Jays, and the Expos. And over the last 20 years, he's been the color analyst for the Miami Marlins on Bally Sports Florida TV. Let's bring in Tommy Hutton. Tommy, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing good. Always great to talk to you, talk a little baseball. I love it.
Well, Tommy, you played in the 60s and the 70s. I want to talk a little bit about your career because you played with some fabulous Hall of Famers. You started off your career in 1966 with the Dodgers, and I was looking up the roster, and what did I see? Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. You got to tell me a little bit about that adventure with those two.
Well, the best Sandy Koufax story I have is that my very first game that I got to get in, I played one inning of defense. And Walter Alston came down and said, "You want to play one inning of defense?" It was about 8-0 game. Koufax was on the mound, and we were at Dodger Stadium, which I grew up in L.A. I grew up about 20 minutes from Dodger Stadium. So I go and play one inning. I get to play behind Sandy Koufax. Fortunately, I didn't get a ground ball. I got a couple of throws. I got a couple of throws, one from Maury Wills over at short. And the thing that I always remember, and it was something that I took with me as I played, Sandy Koufax actually came over to my locker after the game and said, "Congratulations for getting in your first game." And I think it was like his 23rd or 24th win that year, and that was just amazing.
That's a very cool story and something that you'll always remember. You move on to the Phillies, and boy, you played first base, and you had one hell of an infield. Larry Bowa, Mike Schmidt, and in the outfield, Greg Luzinski. I mean, this is a top-of-the-line lineup. How did you fare with the Phillies in those years?
Well, we had some good teams. As I got to that stage, to the major leagues, and then found out that because I was not a big guy and didn't have a whole lot of power, I could play first base, I could play the outfield. I realized I was going to have to be a utility guy, a guy who could pinch hit, come in for defense, because obviously they always wanted some power at first base. But to play with guys like Schmitty and also the year I remember there, my very first year, 72, was the year the Phillies won 59 games that year, and Steve Carlton won 27. So, another Hall of Famer, and he was amazing to play. Boa used to come in the clubhouse and just say, "Hey, it's win day today. We got a chance to win."
Even better. Tommy Hutton joined me on the Extra Inning postgame show. You finished out your career in Montreal. You played both in Toronto and Montreal. Beautiful country in Canada. Both cities very, very much loving baseball. Montreal, I played up there for a half a year. It was tough playing in Montreal. The stadium was tough to play in. You ended up playing there a couple years. You had good teams. Andre Dawson, Warren Cromartie. You ended up even Chris Spire, my good friend out here in San Francisco. But, Montreal was tough, as I said. How did you enjoy playing in Canada altogether?
It was, as you said, it was tough. The language barrier, they spoke a lot of French in the city. We had a great general manager in John McHale, and with his wife, they tried to teach as much French as we could learn, try to work with our wives as well. Toronto is a little different city. Toronto's more like a big American city. I'll tell you the funny story. I was in Toronto, and my manager was Roy Hartsfield, and I had heard rumors that I might get traded back to Philadelphia. So we're playing a game in Seattle, and Roy calls me in after the game, and he goes, "Well, we got your wish, got you traded back to the National League." So I'm all excited. I think I'm going back to Philadelphia. He said, "You're going to Montreal." And I said, "Roy, wait a minute, I'm still in Canada."
You went from the west to the east. That's what you ended up doing. Well, Tommy, let's jump into the Marlins here. Of course, the Giants and Marlins are playing this weekend. It's a very young team, but they picked up Clayton McCullough, a guy that coached for the Dodgers for so many years. Tell me a little bit about him, and tell me how he's adjusting to be a manager.
He had a chance to manage, I believe, in Toronto's organization in the low minors. So he had some managerial experience, but none at the big league level. He was the first base coach for 4 or 5 years with the Dodgers. And he's taken on a role. He knows he has a lot of young guys. He knows there's a lot of teaching going on, which there is with the coaching staff. Before games, you see a lot of that all the time. They do a few things that are a little different than we old guys are used to. A lot of times, mostly at home, it's harder to do it on the road, but mostly at home during batting practice, they take batting practice off a machine that's throwing 95 miles an hour to get them used to velocity. The other thing, when a starting pitcher, usually a guy will have his start, and a couple days after the start, he'll go throw a bullpen. Well, a bullpen for a Marlins starter is pitching on the mound to some hitters with 4 or 5 guys standing behind him with iPads and clipboards tracking all of his stuff. So it's unique. I think it's something that Clayton McCullough knew he was going to do once he got the job as the manager. And I'll say one thing, they go out there, they're not going to win a ton of games. Hopefully they won't lose 100. They lost 100 last year. And they play hard. Every team that plays them, guys that we talk to, other broadcasters, they know that, they might have a chance to win, but they're going to have to play hard to beat him because he has his ball club playing hard.
Well, Tommy, we talk old school. We used to do that, too, between starts, throw live BP. It got you back in the zone. You got you throwing to hitters. And I think it was so a mental game back then, but it got you, anticipating your next start. I love that idea. I haven't heard that in a while. Tommy, let's talk about the speed of this team. 46 stolen bases already this year. It's a young team, and he's definitely using, when you look at what Clayton's doing, he's using the aggressiveness to get on the bases and take the next base, get him in scoring position. What have you seen out of these guys? Because they're pretty quick.
Yeah, they would have probably more if not for Xavier Edwards on the IL, a little shortstop who stole over 40 bases last year, switch hitter. Gets on base, but he's been on the injured list. And so with him out of the lineup, they've kind of constructed their lineup differently. They're not getting as many stolen bases, but they do have to use that, especially trying to go to first to third and take the extra base and utilize that with the offense. They don't have a bunch of big boppers. They got some Jesus Sanchez can go deep. They got a young kid who's starting to do some catching and DHing, Augustine Ramirez, who I think's really going to be a nice player down the road. They made one of the nicest trades, I think. Peter Bendix, director of baseball operations, president. They traded to Baltimore. They traded Trevor Rogers, a left-hander who was really struggling and actually just got called up by Baltimore. He was in the minor leagues. And for Rogers, they got two regulars in their lineup, Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. And Stowers is having an all-star type year. Norby is extremely solid. So they've got some solid players, a decent foundation to try to build off of.
Tommy, that was the name that I really wanted to talk about was Kyle Stowers, hitting over 300, 10 home runs, 32 RBIs, plays a good solid left field. He's really the guy in the middle of the order that can drive in runs. Tell me a little bit more about him.
I give him all the credit because he's made all the adjustments and he's worked very hard at it. Last year when he came over from Baltimore and started to play, all you had to do was throw something with a little heat up in the zone and he would swing and miss. He struck out a ton. And at times you just thought, man, he's never going to catch up to that pitch. He's made the adjustment. He's better at laying off that pitch, but even now he hits that pitch once in a while. He drives the ball the other way. He's shown power to left field as well as right field. He's a left-handed hitter. So I give him all the credit because he has made some tremendous adjustments. He's not the hitter he was when he came over last year.
A few more minutes with Tommy Hutton as we break down the Miami Marlins on the Extra Inning postgame show. Break down the offense and defense. When you look at the offense, the numbers are pretty good, about 250 as a team hitting. They've hit 85 doubles, 48 home runs. The runs are getting there, but when you look at the pitching side, I think that's where most of the problems start. Of over a 5-point earned run average is a team earned run average, and even out of the bullpen, the numbers are high. It seems like the pitching side is something that they're going to have to get better.
And you're right, and they have some solid starting pitchers. They just have not pitched up to their capabilities. Everybody, of course, in baseball has been watching Sandy Alcantara because a lot of people feel he might get traded, but if he doesn't pitch well, he won't be. He has good stuff. He's coming back from Tommy John. His velocity is there, but watching him this year, he just doesn't have the location, and he's been hurt in just about every one of his starts by one bad inning. And once that bad inning happens, then he just can't pick up a win. And so he struggled. Edward Cabrera has tremendous stuff. Max Meyer, first-round pick, right-hander. Ryan Weathers used to be with San Diego. His dad, I don't know, did you pitch against David Weathers? You might
No,
have.
He was a little after me, but I know who he is exactly. Yeah, I remember Ryan also with San Diego. Yeah. He started off there, and he was a big number one pick, and he got traded over to Miami, I do believe.
And he started the year on the injured list, so he's just back, and he throws well. And Cal Quantrill. So we got a couple of former major leaguers, their sons. It's Paul Quantrill. He pitched in the big league. So the rotation itself, when you look at that, isn't that bad if they're pitching to their capabilities. And so far, only a couple of them have.
Last one for you, Tommy. You look at the NL East, Philadelphia in first place, the Mets right behind them, Atlanta starting to get hot, Washington and then Miami. Who do you think is the strongest team in this division?
I've always said at the beginning of the year, the Phillies. Maybe it was because I spent 6 years there. I don't know. Maybe my heart goes to Philadelphia, but I think they have a solid offense. 1 through 9. I like their rotation a little bit better than the Braves and the Mets. So I like the Phillies. But, man, you never can discount the Braves. They've come a long way after their horrible start. Mm-hmm. And the Mets, they surprised everybody. And they're doing well with Soto not even tearing things up. So it's a tough division. The Washington Nationals are a team that have a tremendous amount of young players and prospects, and they're playing well, and they're going to get better every year. So the National League East is always a tough division.
Tommy, what a pleasure to speak to you today. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, Bill, I enjoyed it. Nice talking to you, and enjoy the Bay Area. I always did when I traveled. I don't travel with the club now. I just do about 50 or 60 home games. But I always enjoyed coming out to the Bay Area for sure.
Well, you do a great job on the TV side for the Miami Marlins, and once again, I appreciate your time. That was Tommy Hutton on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning post-game show. The final day of May 2025. The Giants lose a tough one today in Miami, 1-0, 1 run only on 3 hits by the Marlins. No runs, 8 hits for the San Francisco Giants as they drop the game. They're 1-1 tomorrow. Hayden Birdsong is going to try to win the game, and the Giants will try to score some more runs, hopefully. Hayden Birdsong on the hill, he's 2-1 with a 2.4 earned run average. Going against the left-hander Ryan Weathers, 1-0 with a 1.15. Ryan's only thrown 3 games, so you have to look at that earned run average. He's only given up 2 earned runs in those games. He's faced the Padres. The Padres, who went 5 2/3, only gave up 3 hits, no runs. Threw against the Cubs twice, 10 innings, 2 earned runs. So tomorrow the Giants are going to have to do something here. They're 5-12 against left-handed starting pitchers, and that all starts tomorrow right here at 10:40 a.m. As I finish out the month of May here, the Giants are 13-14 in the month of May. In April, they were 16-11. And in March, they were 3-1 for an overall record of 32-26. The number that's staggering here in the month of May, being 13-14, the overall earned run average for the San Francisco Giants is a 2.64. Remarkable number right there. Now, of course, with the bullpen being the best in baseball and the starters have been throwing very well, a 2.64 earned run average, and you're 1 game under 500. So tomorrow we start a new month, June 1st. Hayden Birdsong back on the hill. Hopefully the Giants will rebound here and take the 3rd game of the series and then come back next week with 4 against San Diego, 3 against the Atlanta Braves. Tomorrow, got a great show lined up. Gary Malik, he's the owner of Birdman Bats. Of course, Birdman Bats is right here in Redwood City, and they make premium wood selection bats. So we're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk about birch bats, maple bats, ash bats, and, of course, the torpedo bat. So we're going to give you a little education on bat companies and what they try to maneuver and get better. He's been established since 2011. He and his brother started the company, doing extremely well. They do a lot of bats for Korea baseball, Japan, and a lot of big league teams. So we'll talk to him tomorrow. And then I sat down with Buster Olney. Of course, he's on Baseball Tonight, one of the best podcasts out there. And I got to talk a little bit about the National League and some of the things that he sees as a third-party person when he's looking and analyzing games. And you'll be amazed at what he talks about with the Giants and what possible trades could possibly come out there. So that's going to be tomorrow on the Extra Inning post-game show. Today, Tommy Hutton and Rob Nen, if you missed those interviews, they'll be up on the All KNBR podcast. And I want to thank my producer tonight, Kyle Hard, did a great job. And all you Giants fans for calling in. It's always a pleasure talking Giants baseball here on the Extra Inning post-game show. As we finish out here, I just want to say, we have to take a step back here. It's only June 1st. The Giants are 6 games over 500. Let's see what this Giants team's going to do. Let's see if this offense can rebound. But boy, oh boy, we can't talk more about this pitching staff. It has just been dialed in from the beginning of the year, and we'll see if this all translates into a better month of June. For Bill Laskey, be safe, be well. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
It's another great outing for the righty on your home of San Francisco Giants baseball. This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.